Welcome to another one of my Leetcode videos. In this one we'll do Leetcode 2559, count vowel string in ranges. This was also part of the Leetcode contest questions today. So we're basically given an array of words and we're given a list of queries, and each query asks, like, in the indexes from 0 to 2 inclusive, so like left to right inclusive, how many words are there that's both start and end with a vowel? So if you look at 0 to 2 over here, we have one word and then two words that start and end with a vowel. So the answer is 2 corresponding to this query. And the next one is 1 and 4. So if we look at from index 1 to index 4, there are three words that start and end with a vowel. That's 1, 2, and 3, and so on. So we basically have to return this result corresponding to each query. So what will be our approach to solve this problem? Obviously, the brute force approach is that you can go through, each query and then loop through the word. That will be very expensive because it will be number of queries times the number of words or in that query range, right? And so that's going to be like 10 to the 10 to the 5 squared. So can we do better, right? So usually the way to optimize this is try to think of a data structure where if you pre-process this, then you can answer these queries more efficiently, like possibly in O1 time, right? And usually the technique with like ranges is to use some kind of prefix sum. So like, okay, if I know the number of words that start and end with a vowel from like the start to 2, and I know the number of words that start and end with a vowel from the start to 0, then I can take the difference and get how many words end with a vowel from 0 to 2, right? So in this case, let's take an example. So like at this index, so far one word starts and ends with a vowel, right? Then at this index, it's still one word, right? The next index, it's two words because now this also starts and ends with a vowel. And the next index, it's 3 and then 4, right? So the numbers in this array represent, since the start of the array, how many words start and end with a vowel. And so now if we're given a query like 0, 2, we can say, okay, we know for up to 2, from 0 up to 2, there are two words that start and end with a vowel because this is the value here. If we're given a query like 1 and 4, we'll say, okay, from 0 to 4, there are four words. And then from 0 to like 1 minus 1, because it's inclusive of 1, right? So from before 1, there were up only 1. So if I do 4 minus 1, then I get 3. And then if I look at 1, 1, that means it's going to be 1 and 1. So that means, from this index to 1 minus 1, which is this index, they're the same, right? So it's 1 minus 1, that will be 0. So that will be 0 words that start and end in a vowel in this range. So let's go ahead and code it, and hopefully you will see it a bit clearly. So let's first start with creating our array. I'll just call it a prefix sum, and we'll initialize it to words.length, right? And then we'll go through each word to populate the prefix sum. And we need to keep track of how many words so far start and end with vowel, right? Because that's what we'll put in our array. So far, initially we'll have 0. And for each word, what we'll say is if, start and end with vowel, we'll create this function. Then what we'll do is we'll increment this variable, and then we'll set prefix sum at I++ to equal to this number, which represents so far how many words start and end with a vowel. And obviously we need to initialize our I to 0 because we're using it here. So now let's write this function real quick. I'll just do it really quickly because I'm sure you know how to write this function. So I've gone ahead and written these functions. So start and end with vowel just checks is vowel first letter and is vowel last letter, which is word.length -1. And is vowel just checks if it's A-E-I-O-U, right? So that's this one. And now that we've done that, let's go ahead and process the query. So first we'll start by creating our result array, which will store the result of each query in here. And then we'll go ahead and loop through our queries. And for each query, we'll obviously initialize back our I to 0, so we can use that to populate the result array. So we'll say result at I++ is equal to. Now, we have a special case if this is 0, there's no -1 index, right? So basically the default case will be prefix sum at query 1 minus prefix sum at query 0 minus 1, right? Because since the L is an inclusive index, we want to get um, the -1 in the prefix sum, right? So we can get how many numbers match in this array. But if query at 0 is 0, then it's going to be -1. So if query at 0 is 0, then we just know that it's just query at 1, because that's what we put in the array, right? From 0 to this index. So here what we'll do is we'll just handle a special case here saying if query at 0 is equal to 0, then it's just going to be 0, right? Because that's the very start of the array. Otherwise, we'll subtract prefix sum at query 0 minus 1, right? And at the end, we'll just return result. So let's run this and see how this does. All right, accepted. Let's submit. Perfect. 100% time and space. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.